What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. It's the Game Week 6 preview today. So, going to go through all the questions and the topics that you've put to me on Twitter, discuss them, give my opinion, give you some things to think about, the kind of normal stuff. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We've hit 116k now, so only 9,000 off that 125k mark by the end of the season. So hit that button if you haven't already, and let's jump into it. So let's start off with cheap defenders first. Been asked quite a few questions about the best ones to bring in. Should I bring in this player, that player, etc. So just to talk about a couple of players that I'm not going to discuss in this section. So Kilman in particular, there's a whole section on Wolves. A few people have asked me about their defence, size, etc. and obviously the attack as well. So I've got a section on that. And also a few people now asking me about Tuanzebe, because at Man United he's only 4.5 million. Played very well last night against Paris Saint-Germain, up against Mbappe and Neymar, and did really well. The thing is, there's no guarantee that Solskjaer keeps playing a 5 at the back formation, which would probably be the only way he would get in. And also Maguire's got to come back in. So if Shaw's playing left centre back pretty well, Lindelof did extremely well as well last night, as he's done before in these tougher games. And obviously Maguire is the captain, right? He's not going to suddenly be left out. So the idea that Tuanzebe's now an option is way too premature, even though he was very good. And also Man United's next three aren't that great anyway. And we probably need to see a bit more of them before we go into the defence. So I wanted to touch on that because a few people have asked me about that already. In terms of who we could actually bring in, right? So I feel like there's still, and I've probably spoken about this a bit before, 3 teams I'll probably be looking at because of the players on offer. So Aston Villa looking very good right now. Brighton, who haven't looked great in terms of goals conceded, but the underlying numbers are good and the fixtures coming up are pretty decent as well. And Leeds defenders as well, which I've talked about before. So Aston Villa, I think if you've not got Martinez in goal and you're not looking to wildcard or anything like that anytime soon, or if you've already wildcarded and you've gone for a different goalkeeper, McCarthy, Ryan, Meslier, whoever it might be, then the Villa defender looks good. Now, a couple of weeks ago, or a week ago, I looked at the underlying numbers for Cash versus Target, and Target hadn't created any chances, but it was only 2 games. Now with 3 games in, he's created a couple of chances. I think he's had a shot or 2 in the box as well. So his underlying numbers are coming up a little bit. It's still way too early to say, but he's only 4.5 million. You can get Konza for 4.6 as well, who's got a bit of goal threat. So Aston Villa defence genuinely looks pretty good right now. It's been enough games at this point where you kind of start to trust the numbers a little bit, and there's just too many reasons not to just go for them. So if you don't already have the goalkeeper cover, I think an Aston Villa defender looks really good. The only thing I would say is you've probably got a bit more attacking potential from the other defenders. So the likes of Dallas, Ayling, Lamptey, for example, at Brighton. That's the only thing that would worry me, because Cash looks decent, probably slightly better so far than Target. And Mings is obviously good versus Konza as well, but Mings is now 5.2 million, right? So there's no way I'd be spending that on a Villa defender when you can get cheaper ones. So Target looks like a pretty good option, or Konza there. If you want to go to Leeds, so Ayling versus Dallas is a tricky one, right? Because I was on Ayling, I transferred him in for a hit, and then when I wildcarded, I went for Dallas. I saw a few Leeds fans going for him. He sometimes goes into midfield as well, so you'd expect him to be further forward. But the thing is, and now I'm kind of regretting this already, when I actually watch the games, it's always Ayling that seems to be further forward. Yes, he's playing right back, but he gets right up that pitch, right up towards the goal. He's created 5 chances so far, Dallas only 2. They've both had 2 shots in the box. Ayling's expected goal involvement slightly higher as well. So right now he looks like the better option. But again, we're still looking at smaller sample sizes. And like I said, Dallas does get into midfield at times. If I was picking again, would I go back to Ayling? Maybe, but I do think it's pretty close between the two. If there's any Leeds fans watching this, let me know in the comments below. Dallas versus Ayling, who is the best option? Because pre-season, everyone was saying Dallas, and then it came to light that he wasn't necessarily nailed on, and now it looks like he is nailed on. People are still saying Ayling, so it's a bit confusing. I think I'd probably go with Ayling if I was picking again, but absolutely nothing wrong with Dallas either. And then don't ignore Brighton, right? Really unfortunate to concede against Palace. I don't think that was a penalty. 0.0 expected goals Palace had, right? Non-penalty expected goals. That's how bad they were. Brighton are the seventh best team for expected goals conceded so far. They've played United, Everton, Chelsea, and they got pretty good fixtures coming up. Lamptey's created, I think, 5 chances already, 3 shots in the box. He looks very attacking playing as a wing-back. I think he's a really good option. If you've got, I've said this before, if you've got a Leeds defender or you've got a Brighton defender, you're only playing 1 each week, they do rotate quite well. So if you want to ignore Aston Villa there, probably the defence is the target. But I do think there's a lot of good cheap defender options. I know everyone's saying there's no clean sheets anyway, but they will come, right? I don't think the amount of goals we're seeing is going to continue, at least not to the extent it is right now. So Ayling, Dallas, Target, Konza, Lamptey, they're the 5 cheap defenders I'd be looking at. So I just wanted to touch on early transfers. A few people have asked about, I did speak about it last week, but obviously The difference this week is a lot of us have been burnt over the international break, and we kind of already knew this last week that De Bruyne might not start, and then he definitely didn't. And obviously there's been a few red cards this week as well, so people are wanting to move early on them. Kane's already risen twice in price. People have probably wanted to move on him. And I think what I would say is I probably wouldn't change your strategy massively, apart from if it's an international break, because there is a little bit of added risk there. But to be fair, no real difference than maybe moving this early this week, knowing that there's European matches to come. Like, I know no one was really going for Man United players, but what if you'd bought in Bruno Fernandes and he got injured against Paris Saint-Germain? That is the risk you take, and you know the risk when you go early. For me, I've been burnt, and it has... I mean, I kind of said all the way along, I would, as the season went on, I'd probably chill out with my early transfers a bit, and I'm probably going to have to do that now, especially with no wildcard. Like, I literally had to use my wildcard last week because of the amount of hits that I'd taken and had to take because I'd already moved early. So for anyone that's still thinking of doing it, the only time I would probably do it now, preferably whoever you're bringing in has got no matches to play. I suppose if the ones you're bringing in have got no matches to play, and then other players in your team are still playing, they could get injured. That's what happened with De Bruyne, basically. Then yeah, okay, that could still be a reason to wait. But if you've got the exact money, like if you wait and there's going to be a price move and it looks like that's going to happen, either a player's going to drop or a player's going to rise in price, it's going to stop you making the transfer, I'd maybe still risk it. If you're absolutely 100% sure that is the player to get. When I took my hit last week, right, and take this as an example of probably a bad move, I really was just trying to stop losing money on Shaw and Che Adams. I did bring in Maupay, and I'm happy to have him this week. And I still kept him on my wildcard, so I still do think he's a genuinely good option. But I wasn't 100% sure when I made the move, and I did get rushed into it, really, by price changes. This week, for example, if you're looking at Harry Kane, there's almost no doubts in people's mind that he's a great option to bring in this week. So it's a little bit different. You know, unless someone gets injured, you're not going to regret taking that move. And one of the things that happened last week was, it wasn't necessarily that I was unhappy about having to take De Bruyne out. It's just that if I'd waited, I could have taken De Bruyne out straight to Son and had money to upgrade elsewhere. I wouldn't have had to make the other transfers that I did. So yeah, I won't keep touching on early transfers because the situation's not really going to change. You know the risk. With COVID, there's a little bit of extra risk, although I don't think it's a huge issue really, especially when there's no international games and stuff like that. But it is something to think about. And around international breaks, I would definitely be trying to hold my transfer given what happened last time. So there was me last week saying this is the last time I'm going to touch on the Liverpool defence. We know Alisson's out for a bit, but Adrian's come in, Van Dijk's there, etc. They'll be fine. And now Van Dijk's gone and got injured as well. So they're without Alisson, they're without Van Dijk. Alisson's probably going to be back, maybe not for the next 3 game weeks, but definitely after that, I would imagine. Given what Klopp said before, that could change. But given the international break between, I think it's Game Week 8 and Game Week 9, we're probably okay knowing that Alisson will be back after that. Maybe Klopp will give us an update, but if not, he should be back. And then Van Dijk obviously getting injured is a big miss. Matip was back, but then it looks like he's gone and got injured in training. Now, exactly what the prognosis is there, I'm not 100% sure. By the time this video goes out, we might even know. We might hear from Klopp to give us an update. If Matip isn't fit, that would worry me, because when he came in I thought, okay, he's not Van Dijk, but he's a pretty good defender. They'll do okay for Liverpool. They've still got Gomez, they've still got Trent, they've still got Robertson, and they've got Alisson to come back. But no Matip would really worry me as well. Now, the good thing is you don't need to rush because it's Sheffield United at home and they're not exactly the best attacking team in the league, right, by any stretch. So I think there's no rush to get rid of him. It's similarly to what I said last week when Alisson was out. But long term, Van Dijk does worry me a bit, right? To the point where I've only got Trent Alexander-Arnold. I'm not looking to get rid of him right now, but I know in the back of my mind at some point I am going to want the money from him to spend in attack, and I'm going to use the no Van Dijk thing as an excuse. Now, if Matip's fit and Alisson's back, they're still going to be a good defensive team. Are they going to get as many clean sheets as Man City? Probably not. Are they going to be like 2nd or 3rd in the league still? Probably, given how good their team is, right? They're going to keep the ball in midfield. They've got Jordan Henderson coming back, etc., etc. We know that Mane helps out on that left side as well. Salah maybe not quite as much on the right. But overall, they're a team that's going to trap back, try and win the ball back, etc. It's not all just about Van Dijk, but he is a commanding presence in the air. He's a commanding leader in that team. And they are going to miss him, right? So I think if you're ever going to go without Liverpool defenders, now is the time. But I've seen people like look at my team, for example, say you've got to get rid of Trent. Like Trent's now the most, priority transfer to get rid of. Like absolutely not. Sheffield United at home, West Ham at home, Man City away where I wouldn't have expected many points anyway. And then some fairly okay fixtures. So I'm not really massively looking to get rid. But at some point, if I've got 2 free transfers and I need the money, I will look to do that. They're still probably going to get like a clean sheet in like what, 1 every 3 games or something like that. If you get them on a good run, you could get more attacking potential from Robertson and Trent still. It'll be interesting to see over the next couple of games if Klopp changes his tactics a little bit. Because obviously one thing with Van Dijk is his pace. Like if someone gets in behind, he can track back. Matip's probably not quite as quick as Van Dijk. So it'll be interesting to see if he changes, but obviously we're not going to know just yet how that happens. In terms of replacements, I'll just touch on them quickly. One thing I would say is if you've got Van Dijk and you're looking to replace him, I would think long and hard about who you want to bring in attack in particular, and what your team structure would be. Because what we have a tendency to do is spend all our money, right? I did this on my wild card. I got Reguilon because I had $1 million more. If I didn't have that $1 million in the bank, or that 0.5 million in the bank or whatever, I would have just kept Sice and been completely happy with it. He's just gone and got a clean sheet. He's probably going to get another couple in the next 2 games as well. So spending your money is not always something you have to do, and you have to consider how much you want to spend up front. So one thing I did, I got Luka Dean in. I was always worried about getting money out of there. I've got Reguilon in now, and I'm thinking, could I have gone a little bit cheaper? So you can either go for one of the cheap defenders that I've talked about already, or if you want to stick a little bit more expensive around the 5.5 mark, you've got Sice, 5.2 million, Chilwell as an option, Semedo if you want a surety of starts. But when I talk about Wolves in a minute, I'm just not worried about Sice at all right now. Reguilon I would probably avoid because Spurs is not looking good for clean sheets. They might be okay for the next 3, but after that I'd be a little bit more worried about them. So Sice, Semedo and Chilwell, now Mendy and Thiago Silva about probably the best bets if you want to spend a little bit more money. So I want to touch on Man City players because a few people ask me, when do we get them? Are we forgetting about Aguero, etc.? And we probably are a little bit. So Man City actually have some okay fixtures in the next 2, probably to the point where I overlooked them a little bit. So it's West Ham away, Sheffield United away. Then it's 2 tougher fixtures versus Liverpool and Spurs. And then the fixtures from Game Week 10 look really good. So I've got it written down here. From Game Week 10, it's Burnley at home, Fulham at home, Man United away, and West Brom at home, right? So if Kevin De Bruyne is back fit, Sterling's still fit, Aguero is still playing, Mahrez, Foden, etc. are all available to Pep. Burnley, Fulham and West Brom at home in a 4-game span. That looks extremely good for points. Now, some people are already saying to me, like Spurs players who we're going to talk about in a sec, they're season keepers now, they're fixture proof, all this stuff. But you can't tell me, like when Kane's fixtures, they're playing like Chelsea and Arsenal and Liverpool and Wolves, etc. You can't tell me you're betting on Kane to score more points than the likes of Aguero against Burnley, Fulham, West Brom. And let's not forget, if Jesus is still out, and he might not be, that spells really good things for Aguero. He's going to play. They're going to want that number 9 in there. So that's when I'm eyeing up getting them. If you've already got them in, though, West Ham away and Sheffield United away looks like pretty good fixtures. Let's remember, we're all looking at Salah for captaincy potentially over the next 2 for exactly the same fixtures, albeit at home. So that's something to consider. But for me, would I bring in a Man City player right now? I just think Spurs fixtures are so good, it's hard to look past them. If you don't own a City player or a Spurs player right now, you're looking to bring one in. For me, unless you're someone that always likes to go different, in which case the City players are massive differentials, it's got to be Spurs, surely, right? Because the next 3 fixtures are so good. And also they're good, especially Kane is a good price point to go to Aguero, so you could do that. For me, a lot of it comes down to captaincy. Next 3 weeks, right, I could make a case for Kane over the next 3. I could make a case for Salah over the next 2. And then I'm just thinking, when am I captain a Man City player, right? Sterling versus West Ham could be brilliant. I think he scored 2 or 3 goals versus them last year. But Salah at home to Sheffield United could be really good too. So if you've already got Salah, you probably don't need Sterling. If you think he's a better captain option, which I'll discuss on the video tomorrow or Friday, then yeah, maybe you bring him in. But for now, I feel like you can wait for City players if you don't already own them. If you've got them, then great, you're already in a great position. But for me, the priority would probably be Spurs and City. Definitely, Burnley, Fulham, West Brom. Just to say that again from Game Week 10, that looks incredible. That's when I'm looking at bringing them in. But that's in 4 game weeks' time. The lay of the land could have changed so much by then. There could be injuries to key players and stuff like that. Like right now, De Bruyne is out. That would put me off a little bit. They're still a great team, of course, but they do miss De Bruyne at times. So I'm not jumping on right now. And on my wildcard, I've gone without any, but that's not to say they're not still great options. So we had to talk about Spurs. Are they essential? Have people missed the boat? Are we over-investing in them? These are all the questions that came in about Spurs. So are they essential? No. No player is essential, but are they very, very, very good options right now? Absolutely, yes. So I've talked before about them overperforming. They're not going to keep it up. I said I didn't think they were going to score. I think they got 16 returns between them in the first 4. And I was saying they'll probably even get 8 between them in the next 4. Well, Kane's just got 3, Son's just got 2, so that's already 5 in one fixture. And the next 3 fixtures are looking incredible. Burnley, Brighton, so it's Burnley away, Brighton at home, and West Brom away. So it's difficult to like just not bring them in right now, even though after those 3 fixtures it gets really tough for them. And again, look, you might say they're so good on the counter now, they're fixture proof, Son's going to get in behind, Kane's going to play him in, they're just worth keeping. But for me, it's very, very rare that a player is actually fixture-proof, right? And what do we even mean by fixture-proof? I hear that thrown about so often. This player's fixture-proof, that player's fixture-proof. They can score against anyone. Surely any footballer can score against anyone, right? That's just an obvious point to make. You know, Fernandes can go and score against absolutely anyone he wants. Doesn't mean it happens all the time. And look, I'm sure Kane and Son will still score points against the like of Arsenal, Chelsea, Wolves, Liverpool, etc. But surely they are not going to score as many points as they have been doing. Now, you can turn around to me and say that Chelsea defence is rubbish, Arsenal defence is rubbish. And look, fair enough, maybe they're not the defences they once were, but they're still going to be tougher games than they've had already. So I do think in maybe 3 game weeks' time, we'll be looking at how we can move them on. Would that put me off bringing them in right now? I don't think so. Like, you could make a case to captain Kane or Son the next 2 weeks, Burnley away, Brighton at home. Of course, people are going to be saying, well, Salah's a good captain too. Absolutely, fully agree with that. But if you wanted to go a bit different, Spurs captaincy is there. And in game week 8, I've been talking about maybe bringing Antonio in for Fulham at home for captaincy because Man City and Liverpool are playing each other in game week 8. But now I'm looking at that West Brom away fixture thinking Kane or Son, possibly the best captain option that week ahead of Antonio for West Ham. So it is a short-term investment. But I think it is one worth doing in most cases. Look, if you have to rip your... Like, Son is probably an easier one to get for most people because a lot of people aren't set up to get that premium striker in. If you have to rip your team apart, like do a -8, -12, then look, yeah, probably it's not worth trying to get Kane in. But if you've got someone like Jimenez, I've seen people umming and ahhing about Jimenez to Kane. For me, like, I like Jimenez. He's going to tick over. He's probably going to score in the next fixture. He'll probably score against Palace as well. But how many more goals than 1 is he going to score? He doesn't often do that, right? He's very good for bonus. So 8 or 9 points is probably doable for the next 2. But then I look at Kane. I think Burnley away, Brighton at home. Could he score 1? Yes. Could he score 2? Yes. Could he score 3? Yes. Like, he's much more likely to explode than Jimenez is. Obviously, you pay a premium for that. But if you've got the money to do Jimenez to Kane, I still think it's worth it for the next 3. His underlying numbers are good. Yes, okay, he scored way more actual assists and goals than his numbers say. But in terms of on a 5 game week sample size, looking at expected goal involvement, he is top for all players in the whole league, even higher than Salah. And Salah's not far behind, but a lot of Salah's underlying numbers are being made up from assist potential, whereas Kane's are being made up from goal potential. So from open play, Salah's goal threat so far hasn't been great, although he has still scored 6 goals, so you can't write him off just yet. So obviously I'm not saying don't captain Salah, because he'll probably be my captain for the next 2, but Kane is also a great option in the next 3. Good. And the other thing I would say, when you're considering bringing them in, is they're pretty good price points for a swap to Man City players. And I've just said, next 3 are good for Spurs. Game week 9 is tricky, because that's when they play Man City. But in game week 10, Spurs fixtures continue to be tricky and Man City's get easier. So Kane to Aguero could be done. Kane and Son to Antonio and Sterling, if you need to get a Man City midfielder, could be done. There's lots of ways to go if you bring them in, and they're at pretty good price points where you can spend 2 free transfers and kind of alter your team quite significantly. So on the back of it, I think... Not defence, I just wouldn't really look there, to be honest, unless you want a bit of a punt like me. But attack, Son and Kane just look so good right now. And yeah, I would just think later on, they are pretty good price points to change to other players. And I don't know, they're just in such a good run of form. And if the fixtures weren't what they are, then I wouldn't be so interested. But it really just does look hard to ignore them. So if you're umming and ahhing about whether to get them in, I wouldn't worry about the short-term thing. I wouldn't worry about over-investing. It's just 2 players in attack. There's nothing wrong with doubling up on attacks, even in the situation we are now. Unless you think Spurs are suddenly going to do bad, which it doesn't look like, then yeah, I think it's time to get them in. So a lot of people are asking about Grealish versus Barkley. I'll touch on this one quickly, right? Because ultimately, we haven't seen enough from Villa to really know 100% who is the better option. What I can tell you is Grealish looks heavily involved in everything they do. Barkley's probably more of your goal threat. So I looked at the last 2 fixtures they played. Barkley had 8 shots, 5 in the box. Grealish has only had 3 shots, but all 3 are in the box. So Barkley's only actually had 2 more shots in the box than Grealish. But when you look at chances created, Grealish is on 9, Barkley's only on 1. So Grealish has created 9 chances in the last 2 games. A few of them against Liverpool, of course, but he also created 4, I believe, against Leicester as well. So if Ollie Watkins can get his shooting boots on, that's going to look really good for Grealish. So right now, I actually think it doesn't matter because they're in different price brackets. If you've got around 7 million to spend, I probably would still just go for Grealish because you know he's heavily involved with everything. You know what you're going to get with him. He's the talisman, etc., etc. If you've only got 6 million or less to spend, I'd be happy to get Barkley. He's shooting quite a lot. We've seen him in previous seasons. So when he played good minutes for Everton, he got like 140 to 160 points over 2 seasons, right? So when he does play, he does usually get assists. He does get goals as well. He's a pretty good player. We just write him off because he's not had a great run of minutes in the team that he's played in more recently. So I like both. It just depends on the price point. If I've got the money, I'm probably just buying Grealish. In a few game weeks' time, that might change. I might look at it and say, well, actually, Barkley's getting forward quite a lot. He's having way more shots in the box. That's going to equal goals. He's actually the better option. The one kind of clicker would be, or the one thing that would maybe tick us over the edge, is who's got penalties. And people keep asking me, I don't know. Villa fans do not know. Unless someone goes and asks Dean Smith in a press conference, we're not going to know. It could be Barkley. He's taken them before, talisman of the team, etc., etc. But Barkley's done pretty well with them before as well, so he could have them. And look, who knows? Maybe they'll give them to Ollie Watkins. We just don't know. Ultimately, we might not find out for a while because Villa don't get a huge amount of penalties necessarily. But at some point we will find out, and maybe that will kind of tip us over the edge into. I've said like click, tick, and tip over the edge now for like different words for the same thing. Maybe that will finally make us decide. But right now, I think if you've got the money to spend, I still think Grealish is a great option. But Barkley, like if you're going from Podence to Barkley, for example, you got 0.5 in the bank. Great option too. Okay, so let's talk about Wolves' defence and attack. A few questions on this. We'll start with the attack. So the main question is, should we be worried? I've already touched on Jimenez to Kane. I won't go over that again. They're the 3rd worst so far for expected goals. Now, last year, I think over the course of the season, they were 7th best. So from 7th best to 3rd worst, that's pretty stark kind of drop in performances so far. Albeit, again, as we have to keep saying this early on in the season, it's a small sample size, etc. They looked poor for a lot of time against Leeds, right? And then they kind of burst into action for a bit of the second half. Podence started looking good. Then he got brought off. So he worries me because he's never going to get like a full 90 minutes in most cases. And I also can't understand why Traore hasn't been played more. So at some point, surely he comes into that first 11 as well. And one of Neto or Podence drops out. So that would worry me a little bit. It is Newcastle at home and Crystal Palace at home. So if you've got them, there's no rush probably to get rid of them. But longer term, is maybe something to think about. Like I probably wouldn't take out Podence this week for Barkley, for example, because Newcastle at home is a pretty nice fixture. And we know how Wolves play, right? They do like to sit back and then play on the counter, and they will soak up a lot of pressure and then still nick a goal. Like the one Jimenez got, let's be honest, right? A few people said to me it's because you're a non-owner, but it's not to do with that at all. It's to do with the fact that I watched the game, or at least I watched that bit. And Jimenez's goal was jammy as you like. It was a poor shot. Like it was really, it was a soft shot basically. Keeper would have caught it and it goes in. So he would worry me a bit. But in the last 5 games, 4 big chances, decent. 15 shots, 12 of them in the box. It's not bad at all. So I think if you've got another route to get Kane, you can easily keep Jimenez for the next 2. And then maybe then start to reassess. Because he is 8.5 million, right? So he's got to get a good few goals for that kind of price. When there's players like Morpay, Calvert-Lewin's still cheaper as well. All these players you can get for less when Jimenez is 8.5 million. He does seem quite expensive. But like I said, if you've got an easier way to get Kane in, I think you probably just keep him for the next 2 and then see if Wolves are just as bad as we maybe think they are right now in attack, and maybe they are taking a bit of time to adjust to not having Doherty, Jota, etc. So don't panic just yet on Jimenez. But yeah, after the next 2 fixtures, probably, like I said, good time to reassess. In terms of defence, like people are still worried about Saiss. I just don't get it. The man has barely been dropped at all in the last year. There's nothing to say he will be. Even if Marçal is back, the fact that he's playing left wing back and doing all right, and Kilman has come in and done all right as well, it could just be that Marçal doesn't get back into the team. I know why people are worried, because not only did they buy Marçal, who can play left centre back and left wing back, they also bought another left wing back in Out Nouri as well. So there is a little bit of worry there, but maybe they just don't get into the team because the others are doing so well. So if you've got Saiss, I think you're fine. You just keep him. You don't worry about it. If you're looking to bring him in, I still think you can probably do it. But know in the back of your mind, look, yeah, maybe at some point he'll lose his place. But I just don't see it. I just don't see why it would happen right now. The man's been in that team for ages. They were a fantastic defence last year. They continued to be a very good defence this year as well. So I just think Sice keeps playing, right? I think someone told me he was dropped last year, but I looked at the fixtures on Transfer Market, and there was a game where he was rested, and once he came into the team, that was basically about it. So could it happen? Yeah, they've got enough players that can play on that left side where he could get rotated or dropped, but he's just playing well. So he made a few mistakes in the first few games, but since then he's been decent. The fact he's been trusted as left wing back could be good. And the thing is, I think what's weird is Kilman's been playing well. So everyone seems to assume that, well, he'll keep his place, so it's Sice that's under threat, and Sice has been playing left wing back, so he'll lose his place. But why can't Marçal or out Nori, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong by the way, come in at left wing back and Sice moves back to left centre back where he's played for ages, and Kilman goes back to the bench, right? Just because Kilman's played well twice doesn't mean he's going to be a guaranteed starter. So it kind of brings me on to that question as well, because people are wanting to bring him in. I think he's gone up to 4.1 million. Look, if he keeps his place, he'll be the best value defender in the league this season, because Wolves will just keep so many clean sheets. And for that price, it'll be absolutely ridiculous. Personally, unless you've got a defence that can cover it, like for example, if you were going to transfer someone out to Kilman to fund a move to Son or Kane or Sterling or Aguero, whoever it might be, and you had 3 or 4 other defenders that are good enough to come in and play, i.e. they're not just bench fodder, then okay, maybe you can take the risk. But right now, we do not know if Kilman is going to keep his place. Marçal came on, so Marçal is fit now to play, or you'd imagine he's fit to play if he came on and played minutes in the last game against Leeds, which means for the next 2, Newcastle, Crystal Palace, you can just wait, reassess. If Marçal doesn't play in the next one, it's still Kilman and Sice, then maybe they're both good options going forward. Let's talk about Zaha, right? I've said a lot of times I just wouldn't bring him in. In fact, that was his reaction on screen when I said I just wouldn't ever bring Zaha in. We always go through this phase of him looking good, and then we want to bring him in, and he doesn't do anything. What I will say, things have changed a little bit because he's on penalties, right? So Milivojevic isn't getting into the team. He was the first choice penalty taker. So Zaha's been taking them. That is a bit of a game changer, to be honest, because Crystal Palace are a side we've seen in the past get a lot of penalties. Van Aanholt has taken them before as well, but he's not back into the team yet. And the fact that Zaha's now taken, I think, 2 and scored them both this season, Van Aanholt might not even get them back if he's even playing at all. So that is a little bit of a game changer. My only worry is, for Crystal Palace, they just don't score enough goals and they just don't attack enough. Maybe this is a bit of an emotional reaction because I watched that Brighton game and it was so frustrating seeing the way Crystal Palace played. They just didn't care about attacking at all. They had 0.0 expected goals from non-penalty in that game. I think I said that already. Ridiculous. They're the 4th worst team for XG so far. To be fair, I think they've played some tough enough games, and the fixtures coming up are really good, by the way. We should just quickly touch on that. Fulham, Wolves, Leeds, Burnley, Newcastle, West Brom. But I look at the next 3. Wolves away, Leeds at home. They're not going to be easy for Crystal Palace at all. So I don't know. I think Zaha's fine. I think if you're going to target fixtures, why not? This is a good time to bring him in for the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fixtures. But the thing is, if he blanks, let's say he doesn't get anything against Fulham, which I'm not saying will definitely happen because it's a good fixture, then it's Wolves and Leeds. Is he guaranteed to get something there? And then suddenly you're worried about having him in your team, even though the best fixtures are to come. So if we're going down the route of not overthinking, those next 6 fixtures are really good. So maybe if you want to take a punt, Zaha's the one to go for. 7.2 million. 1.36 expected goal involvement outside the penalties is okay. It's nothing flash. 5 chances created, 9 shots in the box. It's decent enough for 5. But I don't know, just having to watch Crystal Palace I think would do my head in. So I think for 7.2 million he's not a bad option. But you can get Grealish for the same price. Is he a better option? Potentially. Villa just looking better. Their fixtures are good too. But yeah, I think, look, if you've got 7.2 million, you want to take a punt, why not take a punt on the fixtures? He's just not for me. But the penalties is a little bit of a game changer. In terms of defence, I wouldn't really go there. People looking at Van Aanholt, he could be a good option. If he's on penalties, we don't know. Would he even start, right? He was on the bench for the last game. Mitchell still played. I don't think he signed a contract. I think he's only got 8 months left. Maybe they just keep playing Mitchell, right? For me, I don't think I would bring in Van Aanholt this week. I just think it's too much of a risk, and there's just no other defenders apart from Mitchell, who obviously, if Van Aanholt comes in, is the one that could be at risk. People talking about Van Aanholt playing in a left wing position, it's all speculation. We just don't know if it's going to happen. Batshuayi's playing, Zaha's playing, Eze could come in as well. That's a front 3. Schlupp's been playing on that left. There's no reason why Van Aanholt suddenly comes in and plays left wing for me. It's just too much of a punt for the money. I think he's 5.4 million as well, right, which is just a crazy price for someone we don't even know who's going to play. So for me, Van Arnold, wait and see. Zaha, cool. If you want to go for it, go for it. I will say the penalties has changed my mind a little bit on him. But I'm still not looking to bring him in just yet. So that's it for this one. Thanks very much for watching. If you've enjoyed it, please do give it a like. Really appreciate the support on these videos. And hit subscribe if you're new around here as well. Leave me a comment below. Let me know what you think of everything I've talked about in this video. Zaha, should we be getting him in? Harry Kane, is he essential? Are you worried about size? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to support me and the channel even further on Patreon, you can do patreon.com/letstalkfpl. There's a link in the description below. So I put a Q&A up yesterday. There'll be another one on Thursday or Friday as well. Plenty of other content on there, plus Slack access, podcasts, you know, WhatsApp, all that kind of thing. So depending on what tier you sign up to, there's a link in the description below. So please do check that out if you haven't already. And big shout out to everyone that's already signed up on the Patreon Legends Wall. You're absolute legends. Really do appreciate the support. You're going to help me build this channel further and further going forward and basically make it bigger and better and let me spend even more time making videos for you. So thanks very much to everyone that supported. If you want to consider that, hit that link in the description below. You can check out what is on offer. I'll leave the video there. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you soon for another video.